not only in its doctrine, but what it is in itself. It's a suffering before it's a glory. That's why we prefer ecumenical. That's why we prefer privatistic lifestyles. That's why we prefer alongside rather than together. I've even raised the question of whether the spirit that has been celebrated in this charismatic generation is actually the same that was poured out on Pentecost. Because I don't see the corresponding depth of change wrought in contemporary believers by their charismatic experience. It does something for them personally. It improves perhaps the atmosphere of their meetings. But where are the economic statements where no man thinks that the thing which he has is his own? Those that believed were together in an economic and social quality of life that did not require for society to bring care. There was not one among them that had need. Those that had sold it and laid the proceeds at the feet of the apostles. There's a generosity, a magnanimity, an ability to be remarkably gracious that came with the baptism in the Holy Spirit that I do not see in a corresponding way in what has been celebrated in this charismatic generation. Because what is the Holy Spirit but God? It's the Ruach, breath, HaKodesh, of holiness. It's what God is in himself. He's an expansive, magnanimous, outpouring, generous, gracious God. So to see a church that is, as we say in America, living close to the vest, watching jealously for its own self-interest, living guarded lives and not open to one another, even in their marriages, let alone to those in the congregation, how is that the expression of his Spirit? The quality of life known in the early church was so other than what Jews had ever known that a Greek word had to be employed to describe it. Koinonia. It was a quality of fellowship, of sharing, of profuse abandonment, of a givingness, of an outpouring that distinguished the church, that even the world around them had to acknowledge, look how they love one another. It was visible. That's what prevailed at Antioch. And when that prevails, then God can say, separate unto me a piece of this, that I can send it out into the world and replicate the reality of Antioch in the places where I send these men, who will then turn the world upside down. Because the world is predicated on entirely other principles and premises, namely selfishness, greed, ambition. Take care of number one. If you don't, nobody else will. See to your own interest. Yes, you can be a Christian, but watch out and be careful how you share, what you say, what you do, what you give. Dollar in the collection plate mentality. Turn the world upside down. Convolute, upset its apple cart. Its wrong values, its false wisdom that has its origin from below rather than above. You, dear saints, shut me off at any time if I'm going on too long, too intensely, and your mind fades. But do you understand that the church is set in a drama of a great cosmic proportion? That there are two wisdoms, two value systems, two mentalities vying for rulership, for prevalence, to prevail in the world. The wisdom of God and the wisdom of the powers of this present world are in contention. And it seems like the world has all the marbles. It seems it has everything that's impressive. Credentials, wealth, prosperity, affluence, style. When I read that magazine on the airplane coming in yesterday, whew, my God, you need extraordinary inner resources and deep commitment and consecration not to be seduced by the remarkable subtlety and power of the advertisements, the articles. It sets forth a whole lifestyle, a whole mentality, which I suspect has permeated Singapore through and through. Pleasure, excitement, skydiving, bungee jumping, looking for thrills. What? Is that what this life about? That we're so bored we have to manufacture thrills that will jump out of an airplane and float for a certain length of time before pulling the cord? Or leap with something attached to us and just narrowly be safe from splattering on the ground? And people write whole articles about that? The woman is an expert because she's made 800 jumps. That's sanity? That's something for us to read on a plane? And make sure not to miss this restaurant, this hotel, go to this section, this amusement park. That world needs to be turned upside down. It's a false world. It's a delusion. It's a pleasure-oriented escape from reality. And it does not even so much as hint that there's an eternity to pay. Everything is centered in this present life, as if this present life is what it's all about. Rather than this present life is preparation for that which is to come, which is eternal. What we call the Dark Ages, the Middle Age, the medieval time, when the mentality was there's a necessary suffering in this life. This is not a pleasure trip. This is something by which we are instructed, fitted, and prepared for the life to come. And we moderns have dismissed that as the Dark Ages. When that mentality is more biblical than our present understanding. Is the world too much with you? Are you caught up with Singapore? We took a ride last night after the meeting. Very impressive. We're even thinking about our world headquarters. Not so much in the Philippines as Singapore. Lustrous, inviting, but seductive and deceptive. Can you see through it? Can you see false values? Can you see what's celebrated? Anyone who has a university degree and has his eyes open and an advanced degree knows that the academic world is a jungle. For all of its civility and pretense, as the guardians of civilization, I've seen men drenched with sweat giving their first address before an assembly of their academic equals because their acceptance, their career, their tenure is at stake. The powers of this age, effectually rule and touch and influence nations and races, though invisible. They are the lords, the gods of this age. And they look upon the church and say, Jesus we know and Paul we know, but who are you? So long as you play their game, so long as you are corrupted by their values, so long as you cultivate their ambitions in the religious dimension, that is to say, still success, still promotion, still recognition.